If you'd asked me a few years ago, I would have said that I really didn't need therapy. I started trying it because I was looking for a new professional skill. I was a yoga teacher and really happy with that. I had an idea or a feeling that I could combine teaching yoga with something that was more intentionally therapeutic. So I tried a few different kinds of therapies, all in the realm of things interested in body together with mind. I worked with wonderful people and had really interesting experiences, but nothing quite clicked. Mostly I felt that the image I was getting reflected back was of my outward personality, someone who didn't really need therapy, someone healthy, competent and fairly well balanced. So the first time I went to try Hakomi, I had already read Ron Kurtz's book, Body-Centered Psychotherapy, the Hakomi Method, which I loved. I'd found it hugely inspiring and I was really excited to try the work for the first time. And my new therapist asked me where I wanted to be in the room, and I opted for us to sit on the floor. So I sat cross-legged, very upright and bright-eyed, just as I would if I was starting to teach a yoga class. And she asked me something about why I was there or what I was anticipating, and I went off into a very enthused spiel about my love of yoga and how interested I was in exploring that relationship between body and mind, and goodness knows what I was saying. But at some point I tailed off, or she interrupted me, and she told me that she was really struck by how much I moved. Not just my hands and my arms and my face, but my whole body. And she replicated some of the movements for me and asked if I'd been aware that I was making them. And she checked to see if I was interested in exploring this a little bit. And when I said yes, she suggested the first ever experiment that I tried in Hakomi. Experiments are the kind of the nuts and bolts of the way that we work in Hakomi. So she asked me to settle into a state of mindfulness, and she invited me to repeat the gestures and the movements. She asked me if the movements were saying something. What are they saying? So it became apparent that I was kind of unconsciously exaggerating myself so that she would really see me. And looking back at it now, I can see that also unconsciously I wanted her to enjoy the experience of being with me. So there are a couple of things in that. The first and most painful is that I have a long-held belief that was until that moment completely below the level of my conscious awareness, that I'm kind of invisible. That my emotions in particular go unnoticed by the people around me. So if I do want to be seen and noticed, which to be fair I don't always, I need to exaggerate and perform being me, being Tanya. And then kind of a little further out from the core of me, a bit less central to that kind of pain, is an idea that I can be visible as long as I'm entertaining, as long as I'm enjoyable to be around, engaging and bright and funny. So somewhere along the line I evolved an acceptable version of myself, the healthy, competent, fairly well balanced person that my other therapeutic experiences had reflected back to me. And that insight was so simple, but so profoundly helpful. It kind of changed everything. Mostly because from that day onwards I had this Hakomi place that I could go to train myself, to learn that my feelings do matter, to be with my therapist, and then later as I was training to become a practitioner with my peers who were on the same journey, and practice having this nourishing experience of being seen, of being noticed, having people take my emotions seriously, having them treated with tenderness and with care. It was like learning that I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to be this acceptable, perfect, engaging, bright, funny version of myself in order to be loved. That I am already good enough. It's really simple. It's incredibly simple, and yet they're woefully rare experiences for lots of us, I think. And also it reminds me so much of yoga, the idea that in essence we are all already perfect, one with the entire universe. But the being human bit means that our minds, our tools of perception, make it almost impossible to directly experience that oneness. It's a straightforward enough idea, but feeling it, living it, not just knowing it, is the work of potentially lifetimes. If you listen to the sadhus. For me, it was doing this experimenting, this self-discovery in relationship that was so important. It was sitting with another person or in a group and coming to understand that we are all already doing our best with what we've got. Now, Ron Kurt says something super eloquent about each of us being the most intelligent adaptation to the lives we've had. Our genes, our parents, our environments, their experiences. And so for me, it wasn't until Hakomi that I came to realise how very desperately I had been longing for this exact kind of therapy.